in my notes, which I kind of wanted to talk about, which I forgot to as well. So a good question from White Ninja, obviously pertaining to this game, is can you ask if Showtime still goes for Adepts in the new patch? Now, obviously, we're not asking you to like give away your secrets and everything. Luckily, I don't think you have any big tournaments anytime soon, so hopefully you're happy to talk reasonably openly. So yeah, are you still doing 4 Adept? Do you still think it's good in 3.8?
I haven't done it at all, I think. Like, personally, I like just like 4 Stalker opening a lot right now. Because it's, even with like 2 Adepts, it's really hard to just shade forwards like you could do before the patch. Because like you always like run the risk of running into 2 Stalker and then you lose like at least 1 Adept. So like you can definitely still do the 4 Adept, but I'm not a big fan of it anymore.
Okay, cool. So there's going to be a few questions off the point of PvP as well, because a lot of people are excited about the new patch and want to ask your opinions about other stuff. So we're probably going to be talking about PvZ soon enough, but I'll try to focus on the PvP relevant questions for the moment.
Sure.
Has the change in shade vision changed the opening meta for PvP? I guess that's kind of the same question, and that's also from White Ninja. So, I mean, 4 Stalker, what you said there, that's probably a lot more common right now. That's what I kind of started doing as well in my pleb level of PvP, because I guess that just allows you to put on a lot of pressure, and the Adepts just aren't as reliable anymore. Anything else that's changed up in the meta of PvP? Obviously, like we already talked about earlier, how Tempests aren't going to really be the end game with Blink Disruptor. You're just going to play a lot more Blink Disruptor because, I mean, those are the only 2 relevant changes, right? I guess charge movement speed helps slightly with Chargelot's efficacy, but for the most part, the only 2 changes for PvP are Adept Vision nerf, so Adept opening's a little bit weaker, and Tempest anti-ground range is nerfed massively, which means Tempests aren't the counter to Disruptors anymore. Any other changes than that, Showtime? Anything new that you would have noted in the recent meta in PvP?
Not really. Like, Carrier do have their place in the matchup, like they always had. But you have to open like very committed, just like Stargate, Void Wraith, and Carrier. Like, I think the new Intercepticors didn't like change it really. But yeah, like I think like a Tempest and it's really the biggest deal, I think. Because like late game is just completely different. Like some people try to get Carrier in late game,
Yeah.
but I think it takes so long to build, so it's kind of hard to transition into them.
It's one
And
of
if
those
there's like a lot
things,
of
right? Whereas before you'd, sorry to cut you off, like you'd get like 3 Tempests and they'd really help your army, right? Because they'd kind of
yeah,
pick away. Whereas 3 Carriers, like you need to kind of go into engagement range and actually commit. And it's like, well, it might not be enough to just have 2 or 3 Carriers, right?
yeah, like I'm not convinced by Carriers, but a lot of people are doing it. And then it's like also like the funny situation where one goes Carrier, the other guy goes for Tempest and kills the Carriers. But then he has like those Tempests that don't do much. So it's a bit silly. Like I'm not really sure what's the best in late game.
You got to start doing the fake carrier swap meta into just go back to ground army. Force them to get
maybe.
like 8 Tempests. You've only made like 1 carrier or 2 carriers or something, and then you're like, bam! I've just got Blink Stalker Disruptor with some Archons and stuff, man. It's I'm setting the meta. Put that one down in the record sheets. You're gonna be doing my build, man.
We'll see.
What are your thoughts on the current, so this is from Crazy Pinno, he says, what are your thoughts on the current patch with Oracle openings? And what kind of transition would you prioritize, a Twilight or Robo? So this is obviously PvP focused, I would assume, since he didn't specify. Are Oracle openings popular right now? What are your thoughts on it, man?
They were always popular, I would say. Like it's a really strong opening. It can be a bit risky sometimes to like a lot of pressure, like Stalker pressure, or even like some Immortal in or something, or even like Phoenix, which like sucks a lot. But yeah, like you can definitely go Stargate. I like it a lot as well. And for the follow-up, it really depends. Like usually, if you go Stargate, you go like to Adept opening, and if you can get some scouting, like if you see a Nexus, you can go into Twilight and Blink, I would say. But it's like really like you can do whatever you want. Like personally, if I don't get any information and I just have like the Oracle, I kind of like to go into Twilight because like just in case there's like Phoenix, I have like quicker Blink, But in the end, like you can do both. Like you can go Oracle into Robo or into Twilight, just like whatever you want, really.
Okay, cool. So it's still pretty flexible opening. It's definitely something that's still on the cards. It's not like it's an unviable. Nothing's changed in PvP for that. I mean, since you did ask about Oracle openings, one thing which has been a talking point recently, and I've been wanting to hear more pros' opinions on it in the PvT matchup, because I've only really talked to Terrans about it so far, top Terran players. I haven't asked many Protoss. In TvP, because the Cyclone doesn't shoot up, obviously it used to be something where Oracle openings always have been great against Terran. They've never been bad. But because the Cyclone was always an option where you'd go into the base and potentially it would come and like just knock the Oracle out of the sky and completely shut down your ability to poke in. Do you feel like Oracle openings are a lot stronger in PvT right now? Is it something you've been making use of? Do you think it's as overpowered as some Terran players have been saying, or do you think they're kind of overhyping the loss of the Cyclone?
I think there are some situations where it's really strong, like the Oracle opening when there's like only a Cyclone to defend. But that's like more situations where you go like one base proxy Stargate and like hope the other guy doesn't scour, for example. But in general, like even like pre-patch, most Terrans defended like the Oracle with mines or just like marine positioning.
Yeah.
So like there are builds where Terran gets like a 3cc and like a Cyclone to defend, which is not as viable anymore, I would say. But in like a normal game, as I said, it's like mines and marines that defend the Oracle really. So I wouldn't say like the Cyclone change was that bad for Terran.
No worries. I think that's a fair statement. It does take away one kind of way of defending the Oracle, but there are still a lot of ways of shutting that down for sure. So we've got one from M. Lunith. He says, Showtime, how do you deal with transitions to skytoss through void rays on 2 or 3 bases? Okay, so if a Protoss is going for void rays in the mid game into skytoss, how would you deal with that?
It's really tricky. Like Skytoss army is a lot stronger than the ground army for Protoss. So what you want to do is really hit the timing. Like in general, Skytoss is a bit weak at the beginning. If you only have like void rays and you're getting like the first few carriers, that's kind of the time where you want to strike. But you also want to have like a really good economy behind it. So I would say, I mean it depends a lot on the game, but in general I would say go up to like a full 3 base eco. Maybe start with 4th base and just build like a lot of Stalker and Archons. That's really how you usually would go about it. Some people like Storm against it, so to Storm the Void Chest, which can be good as well. But yeah, I think like in general just going for a big attack of like 3 base eco, maybe like 8 gates, maybe 10 gates, just like Mass Stalker or Archon is usually a good way to go about it.
That makes a lot of sense as well, right? Because whenever you're going skytoss, it's basically someone teching to like an ultimate sort of super high-tech composition, and it takes so long to get there that whenever anyone's doing that, if you're like, oh, I struggle against Ultralisks, or I struggle against Mass BC Raven or something, the answer's always going to be with those super later compositions. Like there should be a moment where you can kill them pretty solidly most of the time. So as long as you can identify it and go in there, that should be good. So I think that's a few really good suggestions there as well. You know, the Storm option, just Archons and Stalkers can do the job. There was a question from Kalandas. He says, shouldn't Void Ray and Charge Lot actually be a reasonably good counter to Blink Disruptor? It's a pretty mobile army. It's hard for disruptors to, hit the zealots. So shouldn't that be quite powerful against it?
The firstborn shall persevere.
I mean, that's like just comes down to scouting, If you see someone go Charger and Void Dress, you're not gonna make Stalker Disruptor necessarily, right? You're gonna make like maybe some Adepts and some Archons maybe. So it's just like comes down to scouting.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, you've just got to be flexible, and that makes perfect sense. It's one of those things where if someone isn't playing flexibly and they're just like massing Blink Disruptor, then that's great. The thing is, it's never as easy as just instantly swapping your composition and saying, cool, I'll just instantly have charge, 6 Void Rays, and 20 Zealots. So it all comes down to both sides being flexible in terms of that. And the problem with the charge Zealot army, charge Void Ray army, is that it's very inflexible, right? Whereas Blink Disrupt is good in a lot of scenarios, and you can add Archons or things to it to help if they start doing a slower charge lot transition or something. You can add these units that are good against it. Whereas Charge.Void Ray doesn't complement you swapping into Blink Disruptor yourself. You try to go Blink Disruptor, and it's like, well, your Charge.Lot's are just going to run in ahead of the rest of your units and die. Your Void Rays, I guess they kind of fly over the top of your army. They're not the worst thing to have. But yeah, it's not quite as quite the same as having that Blink Disruptor army, which kind of meshes well with any ground-based force. So a good question and a great answer from Captain Showtime. Let's scroll on up. There was one or two more questions I wanted to get to very quickly. Okay, we'll get to the more entertaining ones. So let's start talking about PvZ first of all, very quickly, because there's been like 4 questions in chat about it. Are you happy with the changes they made to the that they're going to be making to the Hydra and the Viper in the most? I don't know if you saw it. They're planning to reduce the Hydra range by 1 and reduce blinding cloud duration. Are you happy about that as a Protoss player?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't mind the Viper in general against Protoss. Like, I don't really care. We have like high tempos to feedback them, and they're gone pretty much. So I don't care about that. But for the Hydras, it's definitely needed. I think. Like right now, I think even with like the buff banding, Hydra banding is just insanely strong against like charge slots, Immortal Archon. Because like the Hydras, they just outrange the Immortals now, so it's super strong. And them going back to 6th range, I think it's definitely a good move. Because right now it's really hard to deal with like just mass Hydra mid game.
The range is kind of crazy, right? It's really like you used to be able to kind of engage in and out a lot more. For instance, Hydra Speedbane was something where you could go blink against, right? You could warp in Stalkers and you could use force fields and you could zone out their army and go forward. And if they overcommitted, you'd trap them with force fields and you'd cut their army up. But now it's like, well, you can't do that because they shoot so far over the force fields. So if you go for an army, whatever your army is, you've kind of got to engage them in one decisive moment, because you can't poke in and out, or you're just going to be giving away way more damage to them than you're going to be dealing as well, until you get out Disruptors or Storm. And even those, it's pretty hard to hit the Hydras, I found, without getting Disruptors and units sniped, because the Hydras shoot so damn far.
I think like personally, I like Colossi against Hydras. Like I don't think Colossi are that good even, but they're like the only unit which have like good range against the Hydras.
I think you won a whole bunch of ZVPs in online cups as well, right? Recently, or I'm just kind of checking out your Aligulac to try and remember. You 3-0'd sort of 2-0'd Namsha just the other day. So some pretty decisive ZVP. Did you use Colossi in those games?
Maybe once or twice, not sure. Like most games I won were based off my Archon job, which I don't know, for some reason really good at right now.
You're just like massacring units with the Archon Prism A, and you're like, oh, cool, I just won with that. Okay. I don't get to test the next part of my build because I'm too good at this part. Oh, okay. The pain of being Showtime, man. Your life is so hard.
Yeah, I think against Namsha I won like one game. Pretty much like he scouted everything. I just swap in 40 Ts, they go to a 3rd base, kill the Spore, kill the base, and that's pretty much it. I don't know.
Nice. Well, if it works, keep on destroying with it. I think that's good. They're going to roll back the Hydra range thing. I'd like a little bit more hit points or something on the Hydra. I do like the idea of trying to give the Zerg more incentives to stay in the mid game outside of just massing Ling Bane and just rolling in from all sides constantly and trying to kind of overwhelm the opponent. That being said, a few players have been making that look completely broken towards the end of 3.7 there. Dark and the Laser were both making that look crazy. So, I don't really know if that was even a fair strategy if you had the mechanics to do it at 400 APM. Anyways, this has been awesome. I've kept you for a very long time because we had a lot of questions. Thanks for going over both games with me. I'll probably split the VOD into 3 parts so that people can digest it. So it can be like game 1, game 2, question time. So they're in like little 15-minute sections or so. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on, man. Any shout outs before I do let you go?
Not really. Just like thanks for having me, and I hope I could like give you guys an idea of what my thought process was in the games and share some insights on my builds and so on.
I just realized I totally derped. So there's a new thing because this is a new format of the show, and I want to try to do this after a lot of big tournaments. Whenever I can get a player to come on, hopefully within like a week or so afterwards, so it's a bit more fresh. Unfortunately, I was a bit busy after BlizzCon, but I want to start trying to actually reward you guys for taking this time out. You know, you don't get anything out of this, so what I'm going to start doing is actually trying to have a tip jar during these shows and making sure I always share 50% of that with the pro players. And I actually was meant to announce that this morning, and I was half asleep, so I completely forgot it at the start of the show. So the rest of my stream today, I will make sure I keep on shilling out this video, and I'll send you through some money for your time at the end of today's stream. So guys, if you do want to support Showtime, any tips you send through, I will be splitting. Actually, I was going to put all of it, not splitting it. I was going to be giving you all of the stuff. Anyway, I'll just give you all of today's tips. So if you guys want to send money to Showtime, you can either send it straight to my one, and any donations today will go to Showtime. So that's a good way to support him. Yeah, and that should be cool. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. It was good to get some PvP insight. Look forward to seeing you play at WESG, that's the one. WESG and a few of the other tournaments. So thanks a lot, man.
All right, thanks too.
All right, good night, man.
Good night. See you.
So guys, thank you very much for hanging out. I appreciate that. My disorganization on that tip jar thing, man. I'm so out of it. It's like, okay, that's cool. I'll just give him all the tips from today's stream. I'm so awkward, man. I'm such a fucking weirdo. Anyway, I appreciate you guys hanging out. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing Snoot. Snoot's coming on the show tomorrow. And we're going to be talking about him versus Stats. Woo! Another BlizzCon show. So I don't know if today's name is good, BlizzCon with Showtime. Maybe I'll do Showtime Talks BlizzCon. And tomorrow I'll do Snoot Talks BlizzCon. Just to make it very apparent that, you know, these guys are coming on and giving their opinions about their games. So I really look forward to Snoot hopping on, giving us some analysis. Any questions you guys have, go check out the VOD Snoot versus Showtime. Check it out, and I will, of course, answer all your questions. You can tweet them at me if you've got a question for Snoot tomorrow, if you don't happen to be here live. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out. I'm going to continue streaming, of course, but for you guys on YouTube, don't forget to hug a watermelon, kick a walrus, and, of course, punch a cactus to the moon. One last thing. I always forget there's one thing after my outro. ICFAR is being delayed this week because I really wanted to accommodate the pro gamers, so I will be pushing it to the last day of this week, but I'm already going to announce next week's topic. So you can still submit replays if you submit them in the next, like, I don't know, 12 hours or something like that. Basically today or in the next 12, 16 hours, if you can still submit replays for this ICFAR topic, which is replays using the new units, hitting units with Tempest Stun, doing crazy like burrowed, infestor, fungal harassment moves, all these sort of things, mass burrow, neural, all this sort of shit. But I'm already going to announce next week's ICFAR topic so that you guys have time to get that one in. That one's going to be really exciting. It's going to be a knife fight in a phone booth. So there was a suggestion from Eon Blue, my mod. He was like, do a scrappy one where people can't get above 50 workers. You know, and that's a good rule to make sure the games are somewhat scrappy. And I'm like, yeah, let's make it 40 workers. So the maximum workers you're allowed to hit when you're playing out this challenge is 40 workers. You just need to try to constantly be attacking your opponent, trying to kill them. Hopefully it creates really scrappy back and forth games. Those are the ones which I'd love to see. So try playing out the challenge, try to win your games without ever going above 40 workers. Send me the replays. The information is down in the YouTube description below. That's all for now, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you guys next time. Goodbye and good night.